Alright, so in this series of lessons, I'm going to be looking at sort of showing you guys some 3D space in After Effects. I'm going to go over how to work with the 3D interface, get yourself sort of used to it, work with lighting, and what we're going to do is in this first project we're going to create a simple sort of paper theater with some dramatic lighting effects. Woo woo. And then what we're going to do is create a Rubik's Cube to show you that you can use 3D and After Effects to kind of create a space for your animation with lighting and different effects, or also that you can use 3D and After Effects to kind of create three-dimensional objects that are kind of pseudo three-dimensional. We'll talk about that in just a minute as well. All right, just to get started, in your Finder you'll find on my UCA, you'll find there's some files. There's one called Theater PSD. There's all sorts of paper theaters for you guys to go through. The reason I'm using a paper theater is that generally in After Effects, 3D space isn't necessarily 3D. It's not like if you use other programs like Maya. 3D space in After Effects is a fake sense of three-dimensionality. It's still flat, so it's a good idea to think of it like that sort of paper theater. So I've got for you, the front of the stage, the curtain. I've got some little side panels to kind of create depth. And this could be your own sort of illustration or space that you can have a camera move into. But just to show you that this is how it's all set up, I've done a nice job of putting that all together for you. But like I said, in that folder, there's all sorts of different sort of things I've pulled from the internet. So feel free if you want to set something up, it's a little bit more customized for what you want to be doing. So this is my theater, and I'm going to take it into After Effects. I want to do File, New Project, because I'm going to start from the beginning. And in my new project, I'm going to go and I'm going to import my Photoshop documents. I'm going to File, Import File. I'm going to find my theater Photoshop document. And once again, when importing Photoshop documents, it's important that it's not footage. You change that to composition, retain layer sizes, create composition, make sure that's checked off, and click open. Once again, it's going to ask you, do you really want to do this? Yes, make sure it says composition, retain layer sizes, and make sure editable layer styles is switched on. I think it's After Effects' way of torturing me for having to say these things out loud. So once again, I've got my theater as a composition. Once again, compositions always have these little icons over there in After Effects, like little sort of circle ball thing, yeah. And then because it's composition, all of the layers are sort of separate Photoshop image. Once again, if you want to save these things as separate files, do not save them as JPEGs. You have to save them as PNGs to preserve the transparency. So I've got my elements all there. I can kind of go through. I'm soloing them up, I'm turning them on, and everything's there. Now you notice that last time I checked, most of you guys aren't working with like almost a 1:1 aspect ratio. So let's change our composition settings. Once again, the keyboard shortcut for that is Command K for composition, or in case you want to find it this way, learn the keyboard shortcut though, seriously, is this, and you see my size is quite weird. So I'm going to change this to the standard, which is 1920 by 1080. Okay. Boom. All right, so that's the right size. Now, importantly, if you do not see this panel here, you need to make sure that's switched on. I'm just going to shrink this. And it should be just there. You want to make sure that you've got that panel turned on. If not, just click till you see that little icon in the lower left corner. You see these options. Because when we work in three-dimensional space, we have to turn on the layer's three-dimensional abilities. Because right now everything is not working in a three-dimensional space. You have to turn that layer on for three-dimensional space. Before I do that, I'm going to switch my view from one view to 4 views. My views is down here with this. You can see this is the active camera and one view is turned on. This is something that you might have just overlooked recently, once again zooming in and out, is just the sort of trackpad or the wheel on your mouse. But I'll switch this from one view to 4 views. And you're like, well, Kat, that has done a whole lot of nothing. You're right, it hasn't done anything because none of my layers are in 3-dimensional space. The instant I turn the 3-dimensional layer on here, these cameras are going to serve different functions. This is my active camera. So if I click on this and I start turning my layers on, you'll notice that the instant I did that, I've got a different set of options. I've clicked this little box here, and now I've got my active camera. I've got the top view, the front view, and the right view. I can switch that view around too. I can change that from right, once again. With this view, it's important that you click on the camera you want to change. So you can see right's got that little blue triangle. I'm active in this. I can see down here it says right camera. I could switch that to left if I wanted to. Up to you. I've got my front and my top. And like I said, I can switch those cameras. Active camera can also switch if I create a camera, which we'll do later on in the lesson as well. So I've got just the stage front layer turned on. I could do all of them at the same time if I just select the top one, hold down the shift key, select the bottom one, and then if I click the little cube here, that'll put all of those layers in 3-dimensional space. You see that now that they're not 3-dimensional, they're sort of showing up in all of these in a weird sort of position. It's because 3-dimensional space isn't activated. The instant I do that, they'll sort of sort themselves out and it'll all look really flat up here at the very top. See that? Okay. So I highly recommend that we kind of work from the front and turn everything off, yeah, as you go along. So this is the front, this is the curtain. You'll notice that my move tool has changed because I've got this new perspective. 3-dimensional space is beforehand in 2D, you've got the X and a Y axis. In 3-dimensional space, you've got the Z. The Z is represented by that blue little handle. Your Y is represented by the green handle, and your X is your red handle. X is left and right, Y is up and down, Z is towards or away. So I am just going to pull this a little bit forward on the Z handle. I'm grabbing that. You can see what handle you grab with the move tool when you hover over it. It looks like in this camera I changed its scale, but I didn't. I just moved it forward more. So now if I turn the next layer on, curtain, you'll see that's slightly behind that. So I'm just going to move that forward a little bit. And I'm just going to set this up like a physical sort of theater. Sometimes if you move things back, you might want to hit S for scale and increase the scale just a wee bit so it fills the whole space. Yeah. And I'll just go, back with those buildings. All right, those buildings, back left, building 2 left. Maybe I move that one a little bit further back. I might turn that curtain off just for a second so I can see the things moving into the space. Building 1 right. All right, I'm kind of happy with that. Building 2 right. And like I said, it's up to you. It's however you want to position these things, really. You might want to move something further away, push something further out. It's your stage. Have some fun with it. And the thing is, you'll get sort of used to looking at this view. So you can see in my front view, looks sort of similar to that. For my top view, I can kind of see that sort of layout of my stage. And from my side view, I can kind of see how things are going. If I change my left to my right, I can see how things are kind of progressing into the background. Yeah. And I can just make sure that everything's slightly aligned if I want to make sure that as well. Maybe that one, I don't know, all the way to the back. And like I said, it's your paper theater, your chance to be a director. You can't go to a real theater right now, so why not make a digital one? And it does get easy. I have done this a little bit, so I'm used to it. So if you feel like you're struggling with this the first time you're navigating around in 3-dimensional space, don't worry about it. It does take a little bit of time to get used to. All right, so I've got everything there. The other thing I might introduce is a floor plane. So for a floor plane, I'm going to just simply go Layer, New, Solid, or Command Y. I'm going to pick up sort of dusty color of the thing. Okay, great, I've got a solid layer. Once again, I see it here, and it's got that sort of thing because it's not three-dimensional yet. I've got to activate that for every new layer I create, which is also super annoying if you're not used to this and wondering something's not working. All right, so I've got that there, but I want this to be my ground plane. I want this to be the floor. So I am going to hit R for rotation. And you can see that as you rotate it, I've got some new rotation possibilities. I've got 3 different sets, or I've got my X, my Y, and my Z. So Z rotates it like that, Y like that, and X will tip things forwards and backwards. And that's exactly what I want to do with this. I want to tip this backwards. So you can see over here on this ground plane, there's my floor. And I'm just going to pull it backwards. And of course I can always adjust its scale. Oh, if I grab the handle, just pull it in just a wee bit. And I'm just going to create a quick mask on this. So you can see this layer sticking out in front of my top layer. If a layer is selected, if you go to the rectangle tool, it will create a mask, and I'm just going to mask it so it goes from here to the front of the stage. If you haven't used masks before, I've got a video tutorial on that. Don't worry about it, it's just getting started. You should know a little bit about how to use a mask when you're doing sort of this level of After Effects, but if you haven't yet, like I said, I'll put some more tutorials up that cover that as well. Alright, so I've got the stage built. I'm happy with that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start animating this in 3-dimensional space and adding lighting in the next video.